Alright, class is in session. Attitude Era. Since the release of the ending of season 4, I think it is, of Stranger Things, you know, the infamous Metallica Master of Puppets guitar solo scene that seems to have sparked, reignited the Attitude Era. Let's do this.
This is for real.
So I wanted to give a perspective on my experience through the Attitude Era because I lived it. I was there. I was there in the time frame of, say, that Stranger Things scene. Like my daughter, who is now into Dungeons and Dragons, Metallica, without any of my actual influence on her, that is amazing to me. I mean, yeah, she can kind of see me every day and see kind of how I am, but I never pushed my music and I never pushed my nerd stuff on her or my culture, really. The Attitude Era, from somebody who lived it. All right, at 40 years old, Young Rocks, born 1981. What a time to be alive, right? Some would say society back then was still, despite all the depiction of all the badass people like myself out there, some would say that society was very conservative. But all my influences came straight out of the 80s. So, Young Rocks, waking up on a Saturday morning. Shit, bright and early, before noon, all your favorite cartoons, you know? And for me, it was early stages. I was into Thundercats, Voltron, He-Man, Ninja Turtles, Batman, the animated series. That was kind of more in the 90s, but you know, we're talking 80s and 90s Attitude Era for me. I was heavily influenced by WWF, which is now WWE, with the likes of Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake, you know, all those legendary great characters, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, you know, and so on. So wrestling was a huge influence on my life. Speaking of cartoons that really greatly influenced who I am as a metalhead or whatnot, was definitely Beavis and Butthead.
We're there, dude.
As a teen, getting into that metal goth phase, I mean, I was pre-teen, I was kind of into Michael Jackson. I mean, hell, Thriller was a big deal, right? I was into Aerosmith. Big fan. I spent a summer watching Wayne's World 2 on VHS tapes. I know, right? VHS tapes, a thing of the past. Influence on me. But my favorite movie of that era was Airheads.
What am I hearing? What's wrong, man? No deal. No. What's this? What are you talking about? No deal! Yesterday, Dick Shine here kicks me out of Palantine Records, and today he has a record contract for me to sign. He hasn't even heard my tape. No deal! But this is what you wanted. You want to know what I think of your contract? Allow me to demonstrate. He wipes his ass with his record contract. I love
Airheads was my favorite movie and probably the single most influence on me as a person developing into the young metalhead that I became. These rock stars take over a radio station to play their song, and they become famous. And it's legendary comedians Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, Adam Sandler. You couldn't go wrong. Mentioning legendary bands like Motorhead, shit. Lemmy is God, you know. Personally, was more influenced by the metalhead, goth, doom stuff. Kind of getting later into my teens, I discovered Typo Negative.
If it doesn't upset people, it's not rock music. It
Right,
has to upset
right.
the church. It has to upset your parents.
Right.
Has to upset the school system.
Okay.
Welcome, Peter Steele. Peter Steele. Does that strikes you as rather strange? I mean, are you up there playing, women are dancing, going crazy, throwing themselves at you, trying to meet you backstage? What do you think of these women?
Well, it's odd to me because this is my job. I'm not here to have a good time. I'm here to pay my phone bill and, pay the rent. If they want to throw themselves at me, well, that's their business.
And do you take them up on it? Do you sleep with some of them? Have sex with some
I'm
of
going to
them?
have to take the Fifth Amendment on that.
Once I discovered Typo Negative, there was no going back. But the band that actually brought me into the Attitude Era, officially, the band that got me to throw away my cassette tapes of Michael Jackson, my cassette tapes of Aerosmith. Oh, actually, no, at that point it was CDs of Aerosmith. Chuck that right out the car window, was Metallica. So when Stranger Things had the famous Master of Puppets scene, those same feelings in me from when I was a kid, that's amazing. Because at that time I was playing Dungeons & Dragons. I was listening to Metallica, throwing away all my old crappy music and replacing it with metal, which led me to Typo Negative and Fear Factory and Static X, and White Zombie, Rob Zombie, Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Tool, all those bands of that era, Iced Earth, Judas Priest, a little bit older, but Iron Maiden, those bands were huge into who I am. As a kid and a teen, growing up through the Attitude Era, I feel lucky to have been able to experience that personally. I was bullied for it, ridiculed, outcast, being so different from the mainstream, that was me. But because I was such a nerd for metal and such a nerd for wrestling, I don't know, we tried to give the metalhead scene a little bit of a different edge, because I know we were seen as the bad guys. I'm the bad guy's bad guy. During the Attitude Era, in my teens, first concert, I remember it to the day, a band called Dracula Jones opened up for Typo Negative, which is how I got introduced to Typo Negative, was through a band called Dracula Jones. Typo Negative, on the other hand, they changed my life. And getting to know the band and the boys there was like a whole nother thing for me. I guess, so seeing this band, Dracula Jones, open up, they were cool. I was like awestruck, because this is my first concert at like a club, very small venue, not too many people. In fact, it was actually at a museum in New York. They cleared out like a bunch of stuff in the museum, and the concert was like in the hallways of the museum, like the main floor. It was pretty nuts. And I remember going there and just being awestruck. I'm like seeing like little mosh pits open up in a museum. Now that's pretty wild. But just seeing Dracula Jones kind of riled people up. And a band called Monster Dog was there too, and Brand New Sin later, I got to have them open up for Typo Negative, and that was badass. But at this very first concert, I was already awestruck by just the environment of seeing giant speakers and guitars and all this stuff in person. They didn't even have lighting or anything crazy. It was just raw bands playing in front of a small crowd. And then Type O Negative steps on, and from their first note, and at this point I've already been listening to Metallica for a while, Megadeth, so all that stuff, and I never once in my life heard that bass hit so hard and heard that, like, those loud sustained notes sold me forever as a fan of Type O Negative. And then later discovering the attitude of the band fit my personality perfectly. It's helped shape my personality. And kind of going back to that Airheads movie, you got that kind of like leather jacket, long hair, badass attitude, never taking no for an answer, you know? So you got to do what you got to do, break into the radio station, play your song, you know? So at that point, death looking over your shoulder was a big big thing for me going through the Attitude Era, because like I was death defying when I became a wrestler. I was leaping off of building tops and into trash piles, into flaming things, and doing crazy stunts with no care in the world about this guy, you know? He couldn't stop me. It was all about the attitude. You know, you had to have balls, you had to have attitude to survive, because there was a lot of people hating on you back then. Even to this day, I feel like I'm one of the last of my kind, you know? At least where I'm at in this town and most places I've been, it's very rare I come across another guy like me, you know? Into that doom metal era, wrestling, nerd stuff, all that combined. Very rare. And now you had to defy society standards, and with cancel culture coming around and all that stuff going on right now, you got to push back. They're trying to take your rights and your freedoms away and all that. It was our kind that pushed those boundaries, so don't forget about that. You got to bring attitude to push the envelope. You got to be willing to make that sacrifice for the next generations, even to have a shot. With the setback with women's rights now, this is bullshit. We got to push back. You got to have the attitude. And I'm glad that a show like Stranger Things was able to spark. Beavis and Butthead are now back on TV after forever away, you know. I'm about to introduce my version, Death in JJ. So stay tuned for that. I'm launching the TikTok and the channel for that. Dirty JJ Show is the official title for the TikTok. So go ahead. It's already launched, but there's only like 2 little clips for test launching it. I'm definitely going to be having my puppet show reflect that Attitude Era stuff. JJ is kind of, to me, a character that's inspired by Beavis and Butthead, rolled into one character, and then Death joins the fray. You'll have to watch that show to really figure out that story. Definitely check it out, and it will have its own YouTube channel. You've seen him kind of throughout this channel make little appearances here and there. So, Raven Black.
Please come in, have a seat. We have something for you. Just sit back, try and relax. Please let me set the mood. One lock of hair, candle to spare, needle and a thread. Add some love with your blood, mix it up in a stew. We will make you shine. You will show me 13 pins, stick 'em all in. Let me stitch up those eyes. Can't say a word, you've been cursed. Your lips are already tied.
That's like one of my new favorite bands. So there's a new Attitude Era coming. That storm has been ready for a long time. With hell riding over our shoulder, I'm glad to see the Attitude Era is back and better than ever. Show your support at the concerts. I know COVID kind of changed the game a little bit, but if you can't get out to a show and the shows are there, let's do it. That's kind of the whole point of this bus that I'm on. Is I'm trying to bring kind of the concert attitude vibe on the road and share it with people on my own tour. So check that out as I develop that. Anyway, hit the like, subscribe, and let me know what you think about this